The night is quiet. There is a gentle stillness in the air, like the world has decided to slow down for a while. Somewhere far away, a soft breeze moves across open land, carrying with it the faint scent of warm sand and river water. Now, slowly, without hurry, the mind begins to drift backward, far back, beyond the noise of modern days, beyond the rush of crowded streets, beyond the glow of electric light, into a place where time moves differently. A place where the rhythm of life follows the rise and fall of a river. This is ancient Egypt. There is no need to imagine anything quickly. Everything here unfolds slowly, like the steady movement of the Nile itself. The river flows quietly through the land, long and wide, reflecting the soft light of the early morning sky. Its surface is smooth, almost like glass, broken only by the gentle ripple of water touching the shore. On either side of the river, the land stretches out in two very different ways. Close to the water, the earth is dark and soft. It is rich with life. Small plants grow easily here, their leaves moving gently in the breeze. This is where people live. This is where they work. Farther away, the green slowly fades into gold. The desert begins. It is wide, silent, and still. The sand lies undisturbed, shaped only by the wind. There are no voices there, no footsteps, only space and quiet and time. But near the river, life continues at a steady, peaceful pace. The sun begins to rise. It does not rush into the sky. It climbs slowly, gently warming the land. The air, cool from the night, starts to soften. In a small village near the riverbank, people are beginning to wake. There is no sudden noise, no alarms, no sharp sounds, just the quiet beginning of another day. A man steps outside his home. The ground beneath his feet is cool. He pauses for a moment, looking toward the river. He has seen this view many times before, and yet it never feels new or old. It simply is. The river flows. The sky brightens. The day begins. His home is simple, made from mud bricks shaped by hand and dried in the sun. The walls hold the warmth of yesterday, and the coolness of the night lingers inside. The roof is flat, made from wooden beams and layers of earth. Inside, everything is still. Clay pots sit quietly in the corner. A woven mat rests on the floor. There is no clutter, no excess, only what is needed. This is how life moves here. Simple, steady, unhurried. Nearby, others begin to wake as well. A woman kneels beside a small grinding stone. She moves slowly, pressing grain into flour with a gentle, repeated motion. The sound is soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Back and forth, back and forth. It is a sound that belongs to the morning. Children sit close by, still quiet, still waking. They watch without speaking, their eyes heavy with sleep. Outside, the light continues to grow. Birds begin to move along the edge of the river. Their wings cut softly through the air. They land, then lift again, never disturbing the stillness for long. Everything feels balanced. Everything feels calm. The river has already shaped the life of this place. Every year it rises, slowly, steadily, without force. The water spreads across the land, covering the fields in a thin, quiet layer. When it pulls back again, it leaves behind dark soil, rich soil, soft and ready. The people know this pattern well. They do not rush it. They do not fight it. They simply follow it. A man walks toward the fields now. His steps are slow, steady, familiar. The path beneath his feet has been walked many times before, by him and by others long before him. He carries a simple tool made of wood. It is smooth from use, worn, but strong. When he reaches the field, he begins his work. There is no urgency, only movement. The soil turns gently beneath his hands. The air is quiet, broken only by the soft sound of earth shifting, of breath moving in and out. Time passes, but it does not feel like passing. It simply flows, just like the river. As the sun climbs higher, the warmth spreads across the land. Shadows shorten, the air becomes still. In the distance, the desert remains silent. But here, near the river, life continues in its slow and steady way. Boats begin to move across the water. They glide more than they travel, their movement almost effortless. The sails catch the light wind, and the river carries them forward. There is no need for speed, there is no need for noise. Everything arrives in its own time. On one of these boats, a man sits quietly, guiding its path with a long wooden pole. He looks ahead, but not with urgency, only with awareness. He knows the river, he trusts it. The sound of water against the boat is soft, repeating, gentle. It is the kind of sound that slowly quiets the mind. Back in the village, the morning continues to unfold. Food is prepared slowly. Bread is shaped by hand, then placed near a small fire. The smell rises into the air, warm and simple. There are no strong spices, no sharp flavors, just grain, water, heat, and time. People eat without hurry. They sit together, or sometimes alone, each in their own quiet space. There is no need for conversation. The day does not demand it. As the sun reaches its highest point, the heat settles across the land. Everything slows even more. Work becomes softer, lighter. Some rest in the shade, their bodies still, their breathing calm. The air hums quietly, almost unnoticed. Time stretches. Nothing pulls it forward. Nothing pushes it back. It simply is. And slowly, gently, the day continues. The quiet warmth of the day settles gently over the village. Nothing changes suddenly. The shift from morning into midday happens so slowly that it is almost impossible to notice. The light grows stronger, the air becomes still, and the soft movements of people become even softer. The man in the field continues his work. His motions are steady, unbroken. The soil responds easily beneath his tool, turning and loosening with each quiet push. There is no need to look far ahead. The work exists only in the small space in front of him. A few steps forward, a pause, then again. The rhythm continues. Nearby, the river moves with the same calm presence it always has. Its surface now reflects a brighter sky, almost white in places where the sun rests upon it. Small ripples appear and disappear without sound. A second boat drifts by. This one moves even more slowly, guided by the current rather than the wind. Two figures sit inside, their bodies relaxed, their movements minimal. One of them dips a hand into the water for a moment, then lifts it out again, letting the drops fall back in a quiet pattern. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is forced. Back in the village, the warmth of the day begins to shape the pace of the day. The woman who was grinding grain earlier has finished her task. The flour now rests in a small clay container, covered lightly to keep it clean. She moves to a shaded area, sitting down slowly, her body settling into rest. The grinding stone remains where it is, still, silent, as if it too is resting. A child lies nearby on a woven mat, eyes half closed, body stretched out, breathing soft and even. The sounds of the village move around the child like a distant hum, never sharp enough to disturb the calm. There are footsteps, but they are slow. There are voices, but they are quiet.
Everything seems to understand the heat of the day. A man walks past carrying a bundle of reeds. He does not move quickly. The weight is balanced across his shoulders, and his steps follow a steady pattern. The reeds will be used later, perhaps to repair a roof or to shape something simple and useful. Nothing here is done all at once. Everything happens in its own time. At the edge of the village, closer to the river, a few people gather near the water. They kneel down slowly, filling clay jars. The jars are dipped carefully. The quiet warmth of the day settles gently over the village. Nothing changes suddenly. The shift from morning into midday happens so slowly that it is almost impossible to notice. The light grows stronger, the air becomes still, and the soft movements of people become even softer. The man in the field continues his work. His motions are steady, unbroken. The soil responds easily beneath his tool, turning and loosening with each quiet push. There is no need to look far ahead. The work exists only in the small space in front of him. A few steps forward, a pause, then again. The rhythm continues. Nearby, the river moves with the same calm presence it always has. Its surface now reflects a brighter sky, almost white in places where the sun rests upon it. Small ripples appear and disappear without sound. A second boat drifts by. This one moves even more slowly, guided by the current rather than the wind. Two figures sit inside, their bodies relaxed, their movements minimal. One of them dips a hand into the water for a moment, then lifts it out again, letting the drops fall back in a quiet pattern. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is forced. Back in the village, the warmth of the day begins to shape the pace of the day. The woman who was grinding grain earlier has finished her task. The flour now rests in a small clay container, covered lightly to keep it clean. She moves to a shaded area, sitting down slowly, her body settling into rest. The grinding stone remains where it is, still, silent, as if it too is resting. A child lies nearby on a woven mat, eyes half closed, body stretched out, breathing soft and even. The sounds of the village move around the child like a distant hum, never sharp enough to disturb the calm. There are footsteps, but they are slow. There are voices, but they are quiet. Everything seems to understand the heat of the day. A man walks past carrying a bundle of reeds. He does not move quickly. The weight is balanced across his shoulders, and his steps follow a steady pattern. The reeds will be used later, perhaps to repair a roof or to shape something simple and useful. Nothing here is done all at once. Everything happens in its own time. At the edge of the village, closer to the river, a few people gather near the water. They kneel down slowly, filling clay jars. The jars are dipped carefully, lifted gently, and placed aside with quiet attention. Water drips from their edges, falling back into the river in soft, repeating sounds. One jar, then another. No one rushes ahead, no one falls behind. The movement is shared, understood without words. The river gives what is needed, and the people take only what they can carry. Farther along the bank, tall grasses move slightly in the breeze. The movement is so light that it almost feels imagined. The air itself seems to be resting, holding its breath between moments. In the distance, beyond the green edge of the river, the desert remains unchanged. The sand stretches outward in quiet stillness. The heat rises from its surface, but there is no sound, no motion, no sign of life. It is a different kind of presence, not empty, but complete in its stillness. Back near the homes, the day continues to soften. Food is shared again, but this time in smaller amounts. A piece of bread, a few dates, a sip of water, enough to sustain, but never more than necessary. The act of eating is slow. Hands move gently. There is no conversation that needs to fill the space. The silence is not uncomfortable. It is natural. As the sun reaches its highest point, shadows become small and close to the ground. The light is steady, almost unchanging. This is the quiet center of the day. Work slows even more. Some people lie down completely, resting their bodies against the coolness of the earth or the shade of a wall. Their breathing becomes deeper, slower, matching the calm rhythm of the surroundings. A man who had been walking pauses beneath a simple shelter made of wooden poles and woven leaves. He sits down, placing his hands on his knees, and closes his eyes for a moment. There is no need to think, no need to plan. The day does not demand it. Time continues, but it feels wide and open, without edges. The river flows. The air rests. The land holds everything in a quiet balance. After a while, small movements begin again. Not suddenly, not all at once, but gently. A hand lifts, a foot shifts, eyes open slowly. The heat begins to ease just slightly. It is almost unnoticeable, but it is there. The sun has begun its slow descent. The light softens, losing its sharpness. Shadows begin to stretch once more, growing longer across the ground. The man in the field straightens his back. He pauses, looking out across the land. There is no rush to finish. The work will continue tomorrow, just as it did yesterday. He takes a slow breath, then another, and begins to walk back. Each step is familiar, each movement unhurried. As he returns to the village, the air feels different now, not cooler yet, but softer. The stillness of midday begins to loosen, replaced by a gentle sense of motion. Near the river, the boats continue to drift. One turns slowly, guided by a careful hand. Another moves closer to the shore, its bottom brushing lightly against the soft earth beneath the water. The sound is barely there, a quiet touch, nothing more. In the village, small tasks begin again. A woman adjusts the covering on a jar. A man arranges tools against a wall. A child sits up, looking around with slow curiosity, as if the world is returning piece by piece. The day moves forward, not with urgency, not with change, but with the same steady rhythm it has always known. The same rhythm as the river, the same rhythm as the land, the same rhythm as life itself in this quiet place. And slowly, gently, the long afternoon begins.
The afternoon stretches quietly across the land. There is no clear moment when it begins. It simply arrives, softly, as the sun starts to lower itself in the sky. The light changes in a way that feels gentle, almost kind. The brightness of midday fades into something warmer, something calmer. The air begins to move again, just slightly. A soft breeze passes through the village, touching the walls of the homes, brushing against the skin, carrying with it the faint scent of the river. It is a small change, but it is enough. The man who has returned from the field walks slowly toward his home. His steps are steady, his body relaxed from the long, quiet work of the day. There is no sense of finishing, no clear ending to his effort. Only a pause, only a moment of rest before tomorrow comes again.
He places his tool carefully against the wall. It leans there, exactly where it belongs, waiting without urgency for the next day. Inside the home, the air is cooler now. The thick mud walls have held back the strongest heat of the sun. The space feels still and quiet, like a place that remembers many days just like this one. A small clay jar sits near the entrance. He lifts it, tilts it slightly, and drinks. The water is not cold, but it is calm. It settles into the body slowly, bringing with it a quiet sense of ease. He sets the jar back down. Nothing is rushed. Outside, the village moves in the same gentle rhythm. A woman walks toward the river with an empty jar in her hands. Her steps are slow, her posture relaxed. The ground beneath her feet is warm, but no longer hot. The path is familiar. She does not need to look where she is going. She already knows. At the river's edge, the water reflects the changing sky. The bright white of midday has softened into a pale gold. The surface moves quietly, as it always does, but now it seems to carry the light in a different way. She kneels, dips the jar, lifts it again. Water spills gently over the sides, falling back into the river with a soft, repeating sound. For a moment she pauses, looking at the water, not thinking, not searching, just being there. Then she rises, turning back toward the village. The jar rests against her side as she walks, each step steady, each movement calm. Nearby, children begin to move more freely now. The weight of the midday heat has lifted just enough to allow for small bursts of energy. They walk along the edges of the homes, tracing lines in the dust with their feet, picking up small stones, setting them down again. There is no loud hafter, no sudden noise. Even their play is quiet, as if the land itself had taught them how to move. A group of birds crosses the sky. Their wings move in slow, even patterns. They do not rush across the horizon. They travel together, following a path that has been followed many times before. The sky continues to change. The gold deepens. The shadows grow longer. They stretch across the ground, reaching toward each other, blending into shapes that move slowly with the passing time. In the distance, the desert remains still, unchanged. Its surface now reflects the softer light, turning from bright gold into a deeper, warmer tone. It holds the heat of the day, but gives nothing away. It simply exists. Back in the village, the sounds begin to shift. The quiet hum of midday becomes something slightly more alive, but still calm. Small conversations begin, spoken in low voices. The sound of footsteps becomes a little more frequent, though never hurried. A man sits outside his home, working with his hands. He holds a small piece of wood, shaping it slowly with a simple tool. Each movement is careful, repeated, patient. Small pieces fall away, landing softly on the ground beside him. He does not look up often. His focus remains in his hands. The work is not urgent. It does not need to be finished quickly. It only needs to be done. Nearby, a woman prepares the evening meal. The fire is small, controlled. The flames move gently, never rising too high. A flat piece of dough rests near the heat, slowly changing as it cooks. The smell drifts through the air, soft, familiar. It mixes with the scent of earth, of water, of the quiet life that surrounds it. The man from the field sits now, his body at rest. He watches the light change across the ground, though he is not truly watching. His eyes rest on the scene, but his mind is calm, unoccupied. There is nothing he needs to think about. The day has already given what it needed to give. The rest will come when it comes. The river continues its endless movement. A boat drifts closer to the shore. The man inside guides it gently, pressing the pole into the soft riverbed. The boat responds slowly, turning, settling into place with almost no sound at all. He steps out carefully. Water moves around his feet, then stills again. He lifts a small bundle from the boat and carries it toward the village. Each step leaves a soft mark in the damp earth, which slowly fades as the water returns. Nothing here is permanent. Everything passes quietly into the next moment. The sky now holds deeper colors. The gold begins to fade into something softer. Hints of orange, hints of red. Very faint, very slow. The light becomes more gentle with each passing moment. Shadows stretch farther. The air cools just a little more. People begin to gather near their homes, not in large groups, not with any sense of occasion, but simply because the day is coming to its natural close. Food is shared. Hands move slowly. Voices remain soft. There is no need to fill the space with sound. The quiet is enough. A child leans against a wall, eyes half closed again. The slow rhythm of the day has returned to the body, guiding it gently toward rest. The adults continue their small movements, eating, sitting, breathing. The light continues to fade. The sun lowers itself closer to the horizon, touching the edge of the land with a warm, final glow. Everything feels softer now. The edges of the world blur slightly in the fading light. The river reflects the sky in deeper tones, its surface darker, calmer, almost like a mirror slowly dimming. And without any clear ending, the afternoon begins to slip quietly into evening.
The evening arrives quietly. There is no single moment when the day ends. It slowly softens, gently fading as the light continues to dim across the land. The sun rests low now, near the edge of the horizon. Its warmth is no longer strong. It feels distant, like something slowly letting go. The golden light that once filled the sky begins to settle into deeper shades, spreading softly across the river and the earth. The village grows quieter, not suddenly, but little by little. The small movements of the day begin to slow. Hands that were once busy now come to rest. Feet that walked steady paths return to stillness. A soft breeze moves through the air again. It carries the warmth of the day away, leaving behind a gentle coolness that touches the skin and settles into the ground. Near the river, the water reflects the fading light. It no longer shines brightly. Instead, it glows, a soft, dim glow that moves slowly with each ripple. The man who had guided his boat earlier now sits near the edge of the water. His feet rest in the damp earth. His hands lie loosely at his sides. He does not speak. He does not move. He simply sits, feeling the quiet of the evening settle around him. Behind him, the village continues its gentle transition. Small fires burn low, their flames soft and steady. The sound of crackling wood is quiet, almost blending into the background of the night that is beginning to form. A woman lifts a piece of bread from the fire. She turns it slowly in her hands, letting it cool.
The warmth rises gently into the air, carrying with it a simple, comforting scent. She places it aside. There is no rush to eat. Time has slowed even more now. A child sits close by, leaning softly against her side, eyes heavy, blinking slowly, as if sleep is already beginning to arrive. The sounds of the village continue to fade. Voices become softer, footsteps become fewer, even the air feels stiller. In the distance, the desert begins to change as well. The heat that once rose from its surface begins to disappear. The sand cools slowly, releasing the warmth it held throughout the day. The wide, empty space becomes something else now, something deeper, something quieter. The sky shifts again. The last light of the sun stretches thin across the horizon, then begins to fade away. The colors soften into darker tones, blending gently into one another. Orange fades into red. Red fades into a soft purple, and then, slowly, into blue. The first star appears. It does not shine brightly at first. It simply exists, small and quiet in the wide sky. Then another, and another. One by one they take their places, scattered across the darkness that is slowly growing above. Back in the village, people begin to settle for the night. There are no clear signals, no loud endings to the day, only small, natural movements. A man stands, stretches slowly, and steps inside his home. His body feels the weight of the day, but not in a heavy way, only in a quiet, natural sense of completion. Inside, the space is dim. The last light of the evening filters softly through the doorway. The walls hold a gentle warmth, but the air is beginning to cool. He lowers himself onto a woven mat. The ground beneath him is firm, steady, familiar. Outside, the small fires burn lower. Their light flickers softly, casting gentle shadows against the walls of the homes. The shapes move slowly, shifting with the quiet movement of the flames. A woman sits beside one of the fires for a moment longer. She watches the flame without thinking, her eyes following the slow rise and fall of the light. Then, gently, she reaches forward and adjusts the wood. The flame settles, becomes smaller, calmer. She stands and moves inside. The village is nearly still now. Only a few soft sounds remain. The faint crackle of fire, the distant movement of water, the quiet rustle of a breeze passing through reeds near the river. These sounds do not disturb the silence. They are part of it. The river continues its endless flow. Even in the dark, it does not stop. Its movement is steady, unchanged, carrying the night along just as it carried the day. The man by the river remains seated for a while longer. He looks out across the water, though he cannot see far now. The surface reflects only faint light from the sky above. He takes a slow breath, then another, and finally he stands. His feet move carefully along the edge of the river as he walks back toward the village. Each step is soft, each movement unhurried. When he reaches his home, he pauses briefly at the entrance. There is nothing he needs to do, nothing left unfinished, only rest. He steps inside. The night deepens. The sky is now filled with stars. They stretch endlessly in every direction, quiet and still, watching over the land below. The desert lies in complete silence. The river flows in quiet darkness, and the village rests. Inside the homes, breathing slows, bodies become still. The rhythm of the day fades completely into the calm of night. There are no thoughts that need to be held, no plans that need to be made, only the steady, gentle passing of time. The air cools further, the ground releases the last of its warmth, everything settles into a deep and peaceful stillness. And in this stillness, the world feels wide, endless, calm. The night continues, unbroken, soft, and quiet.
The night remains soft and unbroken for a long while. Nothing disturbs it. The air is cool, resting gently over the land. The village lies still, each home quiet, each breath slow and steady. The river continues its quiet movement in the darkness, unseen but always present. Time passes without being noticed. There are no markers, no sounds to divide one moment from the next, only the slow turning of the world. And then, very gently, something begins to change. It is not light at first, not yet. It is a feeling, a subtle shift in the air. The darkness softens, almost imperceptibly, as if the night itself is beginning to loosen its hold. The stars remain, but their brightness begins to fade just slightly. They do not disappear all at once. They simply grow quieter, blending slowly into the sky. The horizon, far in the distance, holds the faintest hint of something new, a soft, pale glow. Dawn approaches. It does not rush forward. It arrives slowly, carefully, like everything else in this land. The river begins to reflect this change first. Its dark surface lightens just enough to reveal movement again. Small ripples form, catching the earliest hints of morning. The air carries a slight chill, cooler than before, fresh. Near the edge of the village, a bird shifts in place, then another. Their movements are small, quiet, almost hesitant, as if they too are awaking slowly. A faint sound follows, not loud, not sharp, just a gentle call, soft enough to blend into the stillness. Inside the homes, people remain at rest, but not as deeply as before. Breathing begins to change. Bodies shift slightly. The long stillness of the night begins to give way to the slow return of movement. The sky continues to lighten. The pale glow grows wider, stretching gently across the horizon. It touches the edges of the distant sand first, then the edges of the fields, then the walls of the homes. Everything changes color gently. Nothing is sudden, nothing is sharp. The man begins to walk. His steps follow the same path as the day before and the day before that. The ground remembers his movement, and he remembers the ground. There is comfort in this repetition, a quiet understanding between person and place. He moves toward the river. Others do the same. Some carry empty jars. Some carry tools. Some carry nothing at all. Each movement is simple, each step unhurried. At the river's edge, the water is calm. The mist begins to fade as the light grows stronger. The surface becomes clearer, reflecting the pale morning sky. A woman kneels and fills her jar. The motion is familiar. Dip, lift, pause. Water drips softly from the sides. She stands and turns back. Nearby, a man steps into a small boat. He pushes it gently away from the shore using a long pole. The boat responds slowly, drifting into the river with almost no resistance. The water carries it forward, always forward. The sun rises higher. The light grows warmer. The coolness of the morning begins to soften. Back in the village, the quiet sounds of daily life begin again. The grinding stone returns to its rhythm, back and forth, back and forth. Grain becomes flour. Flour becomes food. Food becomes energy, and the cycle continues. A small fire is lit once more.
The flame grows slowly, steady and controlled. It does not leap or crack loudly. It simply burns, giving warmth, giving light. Bread is shaped again, placed near the heat, watched without urgency. Children begin to sit up. Their movements are slow, their eyes still heavy. They do not rush into the day. They ease into it, just as the light has eased into the sky. One child steps outside, looking around with quiet curiosity. The world feels new again, even though it is the same. The man reaches the field. The soil rests quietly, waiting. He places his tool into the earth. The first movement of the day begins. Slow, steady, familiar. The river flows beside him. The sun rises above him. And the cycle continues just as it always has, day after day, season after season, year after year, unbroken, unhurried, calm.
The morning continues to unfold in its slow and gentle way. Nothing feels new, and yet nothing feels old. Each movement repeats what has come before, but it never becomes heavy or tiring. It simply continues, like a quiet rhythm that never breaks. The man in the field works steadily. The soil beneath his tool is soft, still holding the memory of the river's last visit. It turns easily, releasing a faint earthy scent into the air. The smell is calm and familiar, something that belongs to this land more than anything else. He does not rush. He never does. Each motion follows the one before it. Press, lift, step, again. The work is not something separate from the day. It is part of the day, just as the light, the air, and the river are. Nearby, another field rests quietly. It has already been prepared. Small lines run across its surface, neat and simple, waiting for seeds. The earth there is darker, slightly damp beneath the surface, holding what it needs to hold. Soon it will change, but not yet. Everything waits for the right moment. The river continues to guide these moments. It always has. There is a time when the water rises, a time when it spreads slowly across the land, covering the fields in a calm and steady way. It does not rush in. It does not destroy. It arrives gently. And when it leaves behind something unseen but deeply important, a thin layer of dark soil, soft, rich, full of quiet life. The people do not question this. They do not measure it. They simply know. The river gives, and they follow. A man pauses in his work and looks toward the water, not because something has changed, but because it is always there, a constant presence, a quiet guide. He watches for a moment, then returns to his work. The sun rises higher, the light grows warmer, touching the ground in soft, even layers. Shadows begin to form again, slowly stretching across the fields. Back in the village, the rhythm of preparation continues. A woman sits near a basket of seeds. They are small, simple, unremarkable to the eye, yet they hold something within them, something that will slowly grow over time. She takes a handful, then another. Her movements are careful, unhurried. Each seed matters, but none are treated with urgency. They are placed gently into a container, ready to be carried to the field. Nearby, a man repairs a simple wooden tool. The handle has worn down slightly from years of use. He smooths it with slow, repeated motions, shaping it back into something comfortable to hold. There is no need for perfection, only usefulness, only balance. The sound of his work is soft, almost blending into the air itself. A faint scrape, a pause, then again. The village remains calm. There are no sudden changes, no loud interruptions,
only small, steady actions that move the day forward without ever pushing it. In the fields, the planting begins. The man walks along the prepared lines in the soil. He bends slightly, placing seeds into the earth with quiet precision. One by one, step by step. The motion repeats, steady and even. Behind him, another follows, gently covering the seeds with soil. The earth settles over them, holding them in place, protecting them. Nothing more is needed. The rest will happen slowly, with time, with water, with light. The river continues to flow nearby, its presence constant, never demanding attention, yet always shaping everything around it. A small group of people works together now. Their movements are quiet and understood. There are no instructions spoken, no need for direction. Each person knows what to do, when to move, when to pause. It is a shared rhythm, a quiet cooperation. The sun climbs further, the warmth increases, but still the pace remains the same. There is no attempt to move faster, no reason to hurry. The work will be done when it is done. Time is not something to chase here. It is something to move within. As the morning deepens, the light becomes brighter. The sky above is wide and open, holding no clouds, no changes, only a steady blue that stretches endlessly. Birds move across it slowly. Their shadows pass briefly over the ground, then disappear. In the distance, near the edge of the river, a figure walks with a bundle over their shoulder. The path is long, but the steps are even. There is no sign of effort, only movement. The village behind them remains peaceful. Smoke rises lightly from a small fire, drifting upward and fading into the air. A child sits near the entrance of a home, tracing lines in the dust again. The shapes are simple, fading as quickly as they are made. Nothing is meant to last, only to exist for a moment, then pass. The man in the field pauses again. He straightens his back and looks across the land. The seeds have been placed. The soil rests quietly over them. Now there is nothing more to do for this part of the day. He takes a slow breath. The air is warm, but not heavy. It moves gently across his skin. He turns and begins to walk back. Each step carries the same calm weight as before. There is no feeling of completion, only a natural pause. The cycle continues even when he is not working. The seeds rest beneath the soil. The river flows beside them. The sun moves above them. Everything continues, whether seen or unseen. Back in the village, the day prepares to shift once more. The warmth begins to settle into the ground. The light softens just slightly. It is not yet afternoon, but the morning has already begun to fade. And as always, the change is quiet, unnoticed, gentle. The people move with it, without thinking, without resistance. The rhythm carries them forward, the same rhythm that has always been here, the same rhythm that will remain. Slow, steady, endless.
The morning continues to soften as it slowly moves toward midday. The work in the fields has quieted for now. The seeds rest beneath the soil, hidden from sight, held gently by the earth. Nothing about them suggests movement, and yet something has already begun. It is slow, so slow that it cannot be seen, only felt over time. The man walks back toward the village, his steps steady and unhurried. The path beneath his feet feels warm now, touched by the rising sun. Each step leaves a faint mark in the dust, which will soon disappear. Nothing here holds on for long. Everything fades gently into the next moment. As he walks, the river remains beside him, always moving,
always present. It does not speak, but it tells everything. It tells when the water will rise. It tells when the land will change. It tells when it is time to wait and when it is time to begin again. There is a time each year when the river becomes something different, not louder, not faster, but wider. The water slowly spreads beyond its usual path. It moves over the edges of the banks, touching the fields, covering the land in a calm and steady way. This time is known without words. It is expected. It is trusted. The people do not stand against it. They step back. They allow it. The fields disappear beneath the water. The paths fade. The edges between land and river become soft and unclear. Everything becomes still. But beneath the surface, something important is happening. The water carries fine, dark soil from far away, soil that has traveled slowly, carried by the river over a long distance. When the water rests upon the land, it leaves this soil behind, thin, soft, rich. When the river begins to pull back again, slowly returning to its usual path, the land is not the same. It is darker, more alive, ready. This is the first part of the great cycle. It does not have a beginning or an end. It simply repeats, always. After the water leaves, the land waits. It rests quietly for a short while, holding the moisture, holding the richness left behind. Then, slowly, the people return. They walk back into the fields. Their steps are careful, feeling the softness of the ground beneath them. There is no rush to begin. The land decides the moment. When it is ready, the work begins again. This is the time of growing. The seeds are placed into the soil, just as they were earlier in the morning, each one small, each one quiet, each one holding something unseen. The sun moves across the sky each day, warming the ground. The river continues to flow nearby, never too far, never too close. The air shifts slowly, and beneath the soil, the seeds begin to change, but they do not hurry. Nothing here does. They open slowly, pushing gently against the earth above them. Small roots reach downward. Small shoots reach upward. It takes time, many days, many nights. The people do not watch them constantly. They trust the process. They return to the fields each day, not to force growth, but to be present with it, to move alongside it. A man walks through the field now, looking down at the soil. At first, there is nothing to see. Then, slowly, small signs appear. Tiny green points, barely visible, soft, fragile. They rise from the ground quietly, one by one, following no pattern that can be easily seen. The man pauses. He does not bend down. He does not touch them. He simply looks, then continues walking. There is no need to interfere. The growth belongs to the land, not to him. The days pass in the same steady rhythm. Morning becomes midday, midday becomes afternoon, afternoon becomes evening, and evening fades into night, again and again. The plants grow slowly taller. Their color deepens. Their roots settle further into the soil. The field changes, but so gradually that it almost feels like it stays the same. The people continue their quiet work. Water is carried. Tools are repaired. Food is prepared. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. The cycle moves forward. And then, in time, another quiet shift begins. The air becomes slightly drier. The warmth feels different. The plants, once soft and green, begin to change. Their color fades into a softer tone. Their shape becomes firmer. They are no longer growing. They are becoming ready. This is the time of harvest. But even this moment does not arrive all at once. It comes slowly, gently, just like everything else. The people return to the fields again. Their movements are calm, their hands careful. They begin to gather what has grown. Each plant is cut slowly, collected, placed together. There is no sense of taking, only a sense of completing. The cycle that began with the river now reaches its quiet conclusion. But it is not truly an ending, because the river will rise again, the water will return, the soil will be renewed, and everything will begin again, just as it always has. The man lifts a small bundle of harvested plants. He holds it for a moment, not with pride, not with relief, only with quiet understanding. This is how life moves here, in cycles, in repetition, in calm, steady patterns that never break. He turns and begins to walk back toward the village. The field behind him remains quiet, not empty, just resting again, waiting, always waiting. The river flows beside it, the sun moves above it, and time continues, without hurry, without pause.
The day settles into a quieter rhythm after the work in the fields. The harvest has been gathered, and now the land rests again, as if it is breathing slowly after a long, gentle effort. The fields are not empty in a lonely way. They are simply still, holding the memory of growth, holding the promise of what will come again. The man walks back into the village with the others. There is no celebration, no urgency, no loud acknowledgement of completion, only a shared sense of quiet understanding. The cycle has moved forward, and now there is a pause before it begins again. The sun is still present in the sky, but it is softer now, lower, calmer. Its light stretches across the land in long, warm lines, touching the tops of walls, the edges of roofs, the surface of the river. Everything feels slightly slower in this light. Inside the village, life continues in small, familiar ways. Homes are simple, made from mud brick shaped by hand and dried beneath the sun. Their walls are thick enough to hold the coolness of shade and protect against the heat of the day. They stand close together, forming a quiet pattern along the river's edge. Inside one of these homes, a woman moves slowly through the space. Her steps are soft on the packed earth floor. She adjusts a woven mat, then straightens a clay pot resting near the wall. Everything she touches has a purpose, even if that purpose is small. Nothing is unnecessary. Nothing is rushed. Near the entrance, a jar of grain sits covered and still. She lifts it carefully, pours a portion into a bowl, then sets it down again. The movement is steady, practiced, familiar. Outside, a small fire burns. Low flames, gentle heat. She places dough near it, watching as it slowly changes. There is no need to stare, only to return occasionally, to turn it, to let it rest, to let it become what it is meant to be. Bread in this place is simple. Grain, water, heat, time, nothing more. And yet it becomes enough. A child sits nearby on the ground, tracing soft lines in the dust with a small stick. The shapes appear and fade with each passing breeze. There is no effort to keep them, no desire for them to remain. They exist only for a moment. Then they return to the earth. In another part of the village, a man works with cloth. He sits in the shade of a wall, weaving slowly. Threads move back and forth through his hands, forming patterns that grow little by little. The
The motion is repetitive, almost meditative. Pull, press, adjust, repeat. The sound is barely noticeable, a soft rustle of fibers meeting fibers. Clothing in this land is simple, shaped for comfort more than appearance. Light linen, cool against the skin, made for long days under the sun. Everything is made with patience. Everything is made to last. Near the river, another small group gathers water. The surface of the Nile is calmer now, reflecting the late afternoon sky. The light is warmer again, but not strong. It rests on the water rather than pressing into it. Clay jars are lowered gently, filled slowly, lifted with care. Drops fall back into the river, disappearing instantly into the wider flow. A woman pauses for a moment with her jar held close to her side. She looks at the water, not searching, not thinking, just watching the movement of something that never stops. Then she turns and walks back toward the village. Her steps are even, unhurried. The river remains behind her, continuing its steady movement through the land, unchanged by the small actions at its edge. Back in the homes, food preparation continues. A simple meal is shared, bread broken into pieces, dates placed in small bowls, water poured carefully into cups. People sit together in quiet arrangements, not forming formal groups, but simply gathering where space allows. There is no need for conversation to fill every moment. Silence here is not empty, it is natural. The man who returned from the field sits near the doorway of his home. He leans slightly against the wall, feeling its warmth that has built up through the day. His body is still, resting after the slow work of the land. His eyes drift toward the river in the distance. It is still visible from here, a thin line of movement and reflection, always present, always steady. The sun begins to lower again, not quickly, not dramatically, but in a way so gradual that it feels like the world is simply softening around the edges. Shadows lengthen once more. The air cools just slightly. The sounds of the village grow quieter. A fire crackles gently nearby. Smoke rises in a thin, wavering line before disappearing into the sky. Children begin to settle, their movements slow, their voices fade, their bodies lean against the comfort of walls, mats, and familiar arms. The evening is approaching again, as it always does, as it always will. And in this quiet repetition there is no surprise, only rhythm, only flow, only the steady continuation of a life shaped by river, sun, and time. The man remains seated at his doorway. He does not move. He does not need to. The day is slowly finishing itself around him, and the world continues its calm, endless cycle.
The evening arrives again, slowly, as if it has been waiting the entire time without ever truly leaving. The light softens across the village, not all at once, but in layers. First, the brightness weakens. Then the edges of things become less sharp. Then the colors of the world begin to blend gently into warmer tones. Everything feels quieter, even without anything stopping. The man still sits at the doorway of his home. He does not move immediately. The air around him is cooler now, carrying the faint memory of the day's warmth. The ground beneath him holds that same fading heat, slowly releasing it back into the open air. He watches the river in the distance. It is still visible, though less clear now, a soft line of movement reflecting the last light of the sky. It never truly stops, even when the world grows dark. Inside the village, small changes begin.
Fires are lit again, one by one. Not large fires, not bright ones, just enough to bring warmth and a soft glow to the growing evening. The flames move gently, responding to the light wind that passes through the narrow spaces between homes. Their light touches the walls of mud-brick houses, creating soft, shifting shadows that move slowly with the fire. A woman sits near one of these fires. She stirs a simple pot. The motion is calm, repetitive. Her hands follow a rhythm that requires no attention, no thought. The food inside is simple, slowly becoming warm, slowly becoming ready. There is no urgency, only patience. Nearby, a child lies against a woven mat, eyes half closed. The firelight flickers across their face, rising and falling in a soft pattern. Sleep comes slowly here, not as something forced, but as something that arrives naturally, like the evening itself. Outside the village, the desert begins to feel different again. The heat of the day has fully faded now. The sand which once held warmth is cool and still. It stretches endlessly into darkness, no longer golden, but muted under the growing night sky. There is no movement there, only vast silence. Back near the river, the water reflects the deepening colors of dusk. The sky above shifts from soft orange to deeper blue, then into a darker shade that carries the first signs of night. Stars begin to appear again, one by one, quiet and distant. They do not arrive together. They simply become visible, as if they had always been there and were only now being noticed. A man walks slowly along the riverbank. His steps are careful, almost unthinking. He is not going anywhere in particular, only moving. The water beside him is calm, its surface reflecting both the sky and the growing darkness. Sometimes the stars appear in the river itself, broken gently by small ripples that fade as quickly as they form. He stops for a moment, not because of anything important, only because stopping feels natural here. He looks out over the water. The world feels wide in this moment, quiet, uncomplicated. After a while, he continues walking, back toward the village. As he approaches, the sound of the evening becomes more noticeable. Soft crackling fires, faint movement of people settling, the occasional low voice, speaking without urgency. Everything is slower now, as if the entire village is preparing for silence. Inside some homes, people sit together briefly, not in structured gatherings, but simple closeness, a shared space, a shared calm. Food is finished, hands rest, bodies lean into comfort. The night is fully arriving now. The sky above deepens further. The last traces of color disappear into a rich, dark blue. Stars become more numerous, spreading across the sky in quiet patterns that never change but are always new to the eye. To the people here, the sky is not empty. It is full, full of meaning, full of presence, full of quiet order. They look at it not with urgency, but with familiarity, as if it is part of the same rhythm as the river, the fields, and the seasons. The man reaches his home again. He pauses at the entrance. The firelight inside is soft, warm, still. He steps in. The space feels even quieter than before. The walls hold the day's warmth for a little while longer, but it is fading now, giving way to the coolness of night. He lies down on a woven mat. His body settles slowly. There is no final thought that needs to be completed, no unfinished moment pulling at him, only rest. Outside, the village continues to dim. Fires are lowered. Lights become smaller. Shadows grow longer and then soften into darkness. The river continues its movement, unseen now, but still present, still flowing, always flowing. Above it, the sky expands fully into night. Stars fill the space without noise, without change, just presence. And in this quiet balance between earth and sky, between river and desert, between day and night, everything settles. The village becomes still. The land becomes still. Even time feels softer now. And the night continues, calm and unbroken.
The night deepens slowly, like a soft blanket being placed over the land. Everything becomes quieter now. Not suddenly, not completely, but gradually, as if the world is remembering how to rest again. The village is still. Fires are low and steady, their light dim and warm, barely reaching beyond the small circles where people once gathered. The shadows they create are long and soft, moving gently with the smallest shifts of air. Inside the homes, breathing is slow. Even sleep itself feels unhurried here, as if it arrives in waves rather than moments. The river continues its endless path beside the village, invisible now, but not absent. It moves through the darkness with the same calm certainty it always has. It does not change because the light has gone. It simply continues, carrying the land through the night just as it carries it through the day. Above everything, the sky is full again. Stars stretch across it without pattern that the eye can easily hold, yet there is a quiet sense of order within them. They are distant, still, watching in a way that feels more like presence than action. In this land, the night is not empty. It is full of quiet meaning. A man lies awake for a short moment inside his home, not restless, not thinking, just aware. The soft sound of wind passes through small gaps in the walls, carrying with it the coolness of the desert night. It moves gently across the room, then fades again into stillness. He listens, not for anything in particular, only to the quiet. And slowly his awareness softens. The thoughts that remain begin to fade, and sleep comes without effort. Elsewhere in the village, a small fire still burns near the edge of a home. A woman sits beside it for a little longer. The flames are very low now, almost resting themselves. She watches them without focus, her eyes heavy, her body still. The food has long been finished. The work of the day is complete. There is nothing left to hold her here. She gently lowers the fire, allowing it to dim even further. The light shrinks, becomes smaller, calmer. Then she stands and steps inside. The village becomes even quieter. Now only the natural sounds of the night remain. A faint movement of wind through reeds near the river. A distant rustle that might be a small animal moving through dry grass. And beneath all of it, the steady presence of the Nile. It is always there, even in darkness, even in silence. The river does not sleep. It simply continues, carrying time forward without effort. In the distance, beyond the village and fields, the desert stretches endlessly under the night sky. It is no longer warm, no longer golden. It is dark, but not threatening, just vast, still, complete in its silence. The sand holds the memory of the day's heat, but now it releases it slowly into the cool air above. Nothing moves there,
and yet it feels alive in its stillness. Back in the village, the final traces of activity fade away. Doors close gently, bodies settle into rest, breathing slows into deeper patterns. The world becomes quieter than it has been all day, the kind of quiet that feels natural, not forced. Above, the stars remain unchanged. They do not move in ways the eye can notice. They simply exist, steady and distant, as if they have always been there and always will be. In this stillness, the people of this land sleep as they always have, not thinking of time in the way it is measured, but feeling it as a cycle, a rhythm, a return. Day becomes night, night becomes day. The river rises, the river falls, the fields grow, the fields rest. Everything moves in patterns that never break, and in that understanding there is peace. The man who had walked by the river earlier sleeps now. His body is still. His breath is calm. The day is no longer with him. It has fully dissolved into the night. Outside, the wind passes again, softer this time. It moves over the river, over the fields, over the desert, and over the village, touching everything equally, before fading into silence once more. And the night continues, endless, gentle, uninterrupted.
The night continues without change. It does not feel like time is passing quickly or slowly. It simply feels like time is resting, stretched gently across the land, like a quiet, invisible lair. The village remains still. Every home is silent now, filled only with sleeping breath and the soft weight of calm bodies resting after another long, ordinary day. Outside, the wind moves once in a while. Not strong, not persistent, just passing through, touching the edges of things, then leaving again. The river continues its movement in the darkness. It is not seen, but it is always there. It carries the same steady presence it had in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening. Nothing about it changes just because the light is gone. It flows as it always does. In this land, there are places that feel connected to this flow in a different way. Places built not for daily work, but for quiet presence. Simple temples. They are not loud structures. They do not rise sharply into the sky or demand attention. They sit calmly near the land, often close to the river, as if they belong to the same rhythm as the water itself. Their walls are made of stone, smooth in some places, worn in others. Time has touched them gently, just as it touches everything else. Inside these spaces, there is a deeper stillness. Even during the day, the air feels different here, slower, heavier in a quiet way, more focused. A man walks through one of these temple spaces now. His steps are slow, careful, respectful without needing to show it. The ground beneath him is cool stone, steady and unchanging. There is no rush in his movement. There is no need for sound. Light enters through small openings in the structure, falling in soft lines across the floor. Dust moves slowly in these beams, drifting without direction, as if even the air itself is resting. At the center of the temple, there is a quiet space, a place where people come not to speak loudly, but to feel the presence of something larger than themselves. In this land, that presence is understood in many ways. The rising sun each morning is seen as something constant and renewing. The river is seen as something giving and sustaining.
The sky is seen as something vast and watching. These are not distant ideas. They are part of daily life, as natural as breathing. The man in the temple pauses in the temple space. He does not kneel quickly. He does not perform anything hurriedly. He simply stands for a moment, still and quiet. The light above shifts slightly as the day outside continues, though inside it feels like a separate world, a world where time moves even more slowly. There are carvings along the stone walls, soft lines shaped by hands long ago. They show simple scenes of life, the sun, the river, the cycle of planting and harvest, the balance of land and water. Nothing dramatic, only continuity. He looks at them without moving closer. There is no need to interpret anything quickly. They are not puzzles. They are reminders, not of events, but of patterns. Outside the temple, the land remains in its quiet rhythm. People continue their lives without interruption. Work in the fields continues when it is time. Rest happens when it is time. Everything follows the same gentle structure that has always existed. Far away, the river flows beside everything. It is part of the same understanding that the temple reflects. Change and stillness existing together, movement that never breaks. The sun, when it rises again, will continue its path as it always has. It will warm the land. It will guide the growth of plants. It will mark the passing of hours without needing to be spoken about. And when it sets, the night will return again, just as it always does. Inside the village, people rarely think of these things as separate. The river, the sun, the land, the sky, they are all part of one continuous rhythm, a rhythm that does not need explanation, only awareness. The man in the temple steps slowly back toward the exit. His movement is unhurried. The coolness of the stone remains behind him as he leaves. Outside, the air feels slightly warmer, touched by the presence of the day. He does not look back. There is no need. Everything continues without interruption. As he walks away, the village appears in the distance once again, small, calm, familiar. The river beside it reflects a soft light, even in the quiet of the day. And beyond it, the desert waits in its endless stillness. There is no separation between these things that feels sharp or final, only transitions, only flow. And in this flow, life continues gently forward, without urgency, without noise, without end.
The day begins again in a quiet, familiar way. Not suddenly, not with force, but slowly, as if the world is gently remembering how to be awake. Light spreads across the land without hurry. It touches the river first, where the water begins to show soft reflections again. Not bright at first, only pale movement of color and shape, like memory returning to the surface. Then the light reaches the fields. The green areas near the river become visible again, one layer at a time, as if they are being softly revealed rather than illuminated. The village follows soon after. Houses appear out of the dimness, simple shapes of mud brick walls, flat roofs, small openings for air and light. Everything feels steady and unchanged from yesterday, as if the night only covered it temporarily and nothing was truly lost. Inside the homes, people begin to wake, slowly, naturally. There is no urgency in it. A man opens his eyes first. He lies still for a moment, listening to the quiet morning air inside his home. It is cooler now, fresh in a gentle way. He does not rise immediately.
There is a small pause between sleep and movement, a space where nothing is required. Then, slowly, he sits up. Nearby, another person shifts under a simple covering, adjusting to the return of light. Outside, the village begins to form again, piece by piece. A door opens softly. Footsteps touch the ground outside. A pot is moved. Water is poured. Small sounds begin to return, but they remain soft, as if even sound is careful not to disturb the calm of the morning. The river continues its steady movement. It is the same river as always. It does not change because people are awake. It does not change because people are asleep. It only continues. Along its edges, small signs of daily life begin again. People walk toward it slowly. Some carry containers for water. Others simply stand near it for a moment, letting the presence of it settle into their thoughts before the day fully begins. The water is cool and steady. It moves in gentle layers, reflecting the sky in a soft, shifting way. A woman kneels near the riverbank. She fills a container slowly, not rushing. There is no need for speed here. The river gives without resistance, and so the action matches it, slow, balanced, natural. Behind her, the village begins to take shape in daily rhythm. Smoke rises faintly from early cooking fires, not thick, not harsh, just a thin presence in the air, blending with the morning light. Food preparation begins in simple ways. Grains are handled carefully. Stored food is taken out and prepared without haste. Bread is shaped and placed near heat. The process is familiar, repetitive, comforting in its predictability. There is a quiet stability in doing something that has been done in the same way for a long time. Children move slowly through the village paths, not rushing, not scattered, just drifting between small spaces of home and open air. Their voices are soft, sometimes fading into silence between moments. The village itself feels like a single breathing structure, expanding slightly in the morning, settling again as the day becomes steady. Near the homes, simple crafts continue, hands working without strain, shaping materials that come from the land, clay, plant fibers, simple tools made from stone and wood. Each movement is practiced and gentle, not hurried toward completion, but existing as part of the day itself. Time here is not measured by urgency. It is measured by cycles, by return, by repetition that never feels heavy. The river remains the center of it all, even when not directly noticed, even when attention is elsewhere. It continues to shape everything quietly. The fields depend on it. The homes are built near it. The paths naturally follow it, and life moves around it without ever separating from it. As the morning grows slightly brighter, the village settles into its steady rhythm, not fully active, not fully still, somewhere in between, a balanced space where everything feels held gently in place. And above it all, the sky continues to open slowly, as if it too is becoming aware of the day. There is no rush in any direction, only continuation, only presence, only the soft unfolding of time across a familiar land. The morning settles deeper now, and the land becomes fully awake in its quiet way. Not loud awake, not busy awake, just present. The river keeps moving, as always, without pause or concern. It does not hurry toward anything. It does not fall behind anything. It simply continues, as it has for longer than anyone can remember. Along its edges, the fields stretch outward in soft green and brown patterns. They are not wild. They are not untamed. They are shaped gently by human hands and water and time. Everything here depends on a rhythm that feels almost invisible, a rhythm that repeats again and again. The river rises, the river recedes, the land becomes soft and rich, then it becomes dry and steady again, and then it waits. This cycle is not spoken about loudly, it is simply understood, like breathing, like sleeping, like waking. People move through this cycle without needing to think deeply about it every day. A man walks toward the fields early in the morning. His steps are steady and unhurried. The ground beneath him is firm, warmed slightly by the growing light. Around him, other figures move in similar directions. There is no crowding, no pushing, just shared movement through familiar paths. The fields themselves are quiet at this hour. They hold a sense of readiness, as if waiting, not impatient, just prepared. Simple tools are carried in hands, wooden handles, stone edges, ropes and baskets. Nothing complex, everything shaped for repeated use, shaped for endurance rather than display. Work begins slowly. The soil is touched. The ground is checked. Small adjustments are made where needed. Not everything happens at once. It spreads gently across the morning. Near the river, the water continues its steady presence. It carries a soft reflection of the sky above. Clouds pass slowly, almost unnoticeable. The reflection breaks and reforms in gentle patterns that never stay still. A woman stands at the edge of the field for a moment. She looks across the land without urgency. There is no surprise in what she sees. Everything is familiar. Everything has been seen before, and yet it still feels present, still real in each passing moment. She lowers her gaze and continues her work. Further away, small groups move together in simple coordination. The work of planting or tending or maintaining is shared without tension. There is an unspoken understanding in how people move near each other. Space is respected. Movement is careful. The land is treated with quiet attention. In this place, the soil is not only ground, it is memory, it is continuity. It is part of the same long rhythm that includes the river and the sky and the people themselves. As the morning continues, the heat begins to rise slightly, not sharply, just enough to notice. The air becomes warmer, the light becomes more present, shadows shorten slowly. Still, nothing feels rushed. Even heat here arrives in a calm, predictable way. Inside the village, life continues in parallel with the fields. Food is prepared in steady cycles. Water is carried. Simple repairs are made to homes. Clay walls are smoothed where needed. Small tasks fill the space of the day without overwhelming it. Each task is part of a larger pattern that no one needs to fully describe. It is simply lived. The river remains the quiet center of it all. Even when people are far from it, they still feel its influence. The soil remembers it. The plants depend on it. The village is shaped around its presence. And beyond everything, the desert waits again in the distance, still, endless, unmoving in appearance, though it also participates in the same long rhythm of time. Hot days, cool nights, wind that passes without warning, everything part of the same slow system. As midday approaches, the village does not change dramatically. It only adjusts. People rest when needed. Work continues when possible. There is no sharp separation between activity and stillness. They blend into each other gently, like water meeting sand. And through it all, the river continues its quiet journey, never stopping, never asking.
The afternoon light spreads softly across the land. It is not sharp anymore. It has already passed the bright edge of morning and now rests in a slower, warmer tone. Everything feels slightly heavier under it, not in a tiring way, but in a grounded way, as if the world has settled more deeply into itself. The river continues beside everything, always the same, always moving. It carries a quiet strength that does not change with the hour. Along its banks, the land shows the marks of long cycles, places where water has reached before, places where it has slowly withdrawn, and places that wait patiently for its return. This rhythm is not sudden, it is gradual. It stretches across time in a way that is almost difficult to notice unless one is already watching closely. But the people here do not need to watch closely. They live inside it. The river rises in certain seasons, not dramatically, but steadily. It spreads across the fields like a slow breath expanding outward. The land becomes soft, rich, full of quiet life brought from upstream places far away. And then, after time passes, the water recedes again, leaving behind soil that feels different than before, heavier, fertile, ready. This cycle shapes everything, not just the fields, but the way people think about time itself. A man walks along a narrow path between cultivated land. His pace is unhurried. He carries no urgency in his posture. The path beneath him is slightly uneven, shaped by repeated footsteps over many days and seasons. He is not thinking in large terms, not thinking of years or decades, only the present moment of walking, only the next small task that will come. Nearby, others are gathered in quiet groups, continuing work that feels almost meditative in its repetition. The soil is checked again, tools are adjusted again, water channels are gently guided again. Everything here returns to itself in some form. Nothing is truly final. Even completion feels like part of a larger cycle that continues afterward. At the edge of the fields, storage places stand quietly, simple structures made to hold what the land provides. Grain is stored carefully, not all at once, but gradually as it is gathered, each portion placed inside with attention, not rushed, not careless. These storage places are important, but they are not loud in their importance. They do not announce themselves. They simply exist, steady and dependable, like everything else in this land. Inside them, the harvested grain rests in darkness, still, waiting for the time it will be needed again. Outside, the afternoon light continues to shift. Shadows grow slightly longer now, not yet evening, but moving in that direction. The heat softens as the day begins its slow descent. A woman walks back toward the village carrying a small load. Her steps are even. The path back is familiar. She does not look around in search of anything new. Everything she needs is already known to her. The village appears again in the distance, small, quiet, constant. Smoke rises lightly from cooking fires, not heavy, just enough to mark presence. Life continues in simple layers, some working, some resting, some preparing for later. The boundaries between these states are soft, not strict. Everything flows into everything else. The river remains unchanged in its steady movement. It reflects the shifting sky and broken pieces of light. The reflection never stays still. It never becomes one fixed image. It is always in transition, just like everything else here. Evening is not far now, but it does not arrive quickly. It comes gradually, without announcement, and as it approaches, the land does not resist it. It simply continues its rhythm,
as it always has, a rhythm that does not end with the day and does not begin with it either, only continues, quietly, endlessly.
Evening arrives slowly, almost without being noticed. The light does not disappear all at once. It fades in soft layers, as if the world is gently lowering its voice. The fields grow quieter first, not empty, just quieter. The river still moves beside them, unchanged, reflecting the sky as it shifts into deeper tones. Gold becomes pale, pale becomes soft gray-blue, and then everything begins to settle into the color of evening. The village feels closer now as people return from the fields and paths. Footsteps are slower than before, not from exhaustion, but from the natural slowing that happens when the day begins to end. There is no rush to reach anywhere, only the quiet return home. Inside the village, simple fires begin to appear again, small points of warmth, each one steady and controlled. Not large flames, just enough to cook, to gather around, to hold the coming night at a comfortable distance. A man sits near one of these fires. He does not speak immediately. He simply watches the movement of the flame. It rises and falls in soft patterns that never repeat exactly the same way twice, yet still feel familiar. A pot rests near the heat. Its contents move gently, stirred once in a while. The smell of food is simple, comforting in its plainness. Nearby, another group gathers quietly. They do not form a circle with intention. They simply find themselves near each other, sharing space as evening deepens. There is a calmness in the way people exist together here at this time of day. No strong conversation, no urgency to fill silence. Silence is allowed to remain, and it is not uncomfortable. It is natural. The sky above the village continues its slow transformation. The last light of the sun disappears beyond the horizon, though no one marks the exact moment. It simply happens, gradually, softly, as if the world is closing its eyes. The first stars begin to appear, one by one, not suddenly, but patiently, as if they have been waiting for their turn. The river reflects them faintly, broken lines of light on moving water, never fixed, always changing. A woman sits near the entrance of her home, resting after the day. Her posture is relaxed, her hands still for the moment. She looks toward the village, but not at anything specific. Her thoughts are slow, simple, and unhurried. The day is no longer something active. It is something that has already passed through her. Now it is only memory, fading into rest. Inside homes, lamps or small fires continue to glow softly. The light is warm and contained. It does not spread far. It does not need to. Everything important is already close. Families settle into quiet routines. Water is placed down. Simple belongings are arranged. Sleeping spaces are prepared without ceremony. Everything moves toward rest in a natural progression. Even children become quieter now. Their voices soften, their movements slow, and eventually they too settle into stillness. Outside, the wind moves gently through the village. It passes over roofs, through narrow paths, across fields beyond. It does not disturb, it only passes. The river continues its endless flow, now under a darkening sky. It is no different from daytime, only less visible, still present, still moving. The night deepens gradually, not quickly, not sharply, but in steady layers that feel almost like breathing, in and out and in again. The village follows this rhythm without resistance.
Lights dim slightly, sounds fade further, and one by one the homes become quieter until the entire village rests within the soft darkness of night. The world does not stop, it only slows and continues, gently, without end. Night settles more deeply now, not as something that arrives quickly, but as something that slowly spreads across everything. It moves across the river first, then the fields, then the village, until all of it exists under the same quiet darkness. The stars are fully present now, not brighter than before, only more noticeable because the last light of the day has fully disappeared. They remain still in the sky, distant, calm, unchanging in a way that feels almost gentle to observe. The river continues its movement below them. It does not reflect them clearly all the time, only in fragments, small broken lines of light that shift with the water's slow motion. Inside the village, everything has grown quiet, not empty, just quiet. Homes are still. Firelight is low and steady, no longer active in any strong way, but present enough to give a soft sense of warmth in the darkness. A man lies on a simple sleeping surface inside his home. His body is still, his breathing slow and even. He is not thinking in clear shapes anymore. Thoughts have become softer, less defined, like drifting water losing direction. Outside, the wind moves across the land. It is not strong. It does not demand attention. It passes through the spaces between homes, across the narrow paths, over the edges of fields. It touches everything briefly, then moves on. The desert beyond the village is now a vast, dark presence, not threatening, not alive in any visible way, just endless, still. It holds the memory of heat from the day, but that warmth is fading into the night air slowly. There is no sound there, except what the wind creates when it passes over sand. Even that sound feels distant, like something remembered rather than heard directly. The river remains the only constant movement in this quiet landscape. It flows without hesitation, without pause. It does not change its speed for night or day. It simply continues forward as it always has. In a way, it feels like the land itself is resting around it, while it alone continues the soft journey of time. Within the village, sleep spreads gradually, not all at once, but from one home to another, one body to another, one breath to another. A woman turns slightly in her sleep. A child becomes still after a small movement. A man's breathing deepens further into rest. Each moment is small, but together they form a deep silence that covers the village completely. Above, the stars remain unchanged. They do not move in ways the eye can easily notice. They simply hold their positions in the sky, as if watching without intention. Time here feels less like something passing and more like something unfolding very slowly, without urgency, without direction, just continuation. Even the idea of morning feels far away now, not absent, just not present. Only the night exists in full, soft, deep, unbroken. The river moves on. The wind passes and fades. The desert rests in its stillness, and the village sleeps under the quiet weight of the sky. Everything remains. Everything continues. Nothing is disturbed. Nothing is forced. Only the slow rhythm of the world carries on through darkness. And it is enough, completely enough.
The night feels even deeper now. Not because anything has changed suddenly, but because everything has simply continued long enough for silence to settle into its final layer.
The village is fully asleep. Every home now holds only stillness and breath, nothing more, nothing less. The river continues outside, moving through the darkness with the same steady patience it has always shown. It does not belong to night or day. It belongs only to flow, a movement that never asks for attention, never asks for meaning. It just is. Above it, the sky remains open. The stars feel closer now only because the world below is so quiet, but they are still far away, still calm, still unchanged. The desert stretches beyond everything, wide and dark, holding no shape that can be clearly seen. It is not empty in a harsh way, it is simply vast and still. Inside this stillness, sleep becomes deeper across the village. Not sudden sleep, not forced sleep, but a gradual sinking into rest, like sand slowly settling after movement. A man breathes softly inside his home. His body does not shift. His mind no longer holds clear thoughts. Only fragments remain, drifting gently without direction. A memory of water, a memory of light, a memory of movement that no longer feels urgent. These fragments do not form stories anymore. They dissolve slowly, like mist disappearing into air. Outside, the wind moves once more. It passes over the river, the fields, the village, and the desert beyond. It does not stay anywhere. It does not belong anywhere. It simply travels, and then becomes nothing again. The river remains the only steady motion. It continues as it always has, a quiet line of movement through a sleeping world. In this land, everything returns to this rhythm eventually. Movement becomes stillness. Stillness becomes movement. Day becomes night. Night becomes day. Nothing breaks. Nothing ends. Only returns. Even thought itself feels like it is slowing now, not disappearing completely, just becoming softer, less defined, more like drifting water than solid shape. The idea of time begins to feel distant, not important, not urgent, just present in the background like breathing. There is no need to measure it here, no need to hold it tightly. It passes on its own, quietly, gently. The village continues to rest. The river continues to flow. The desert continues to wait. And the sky continues to hold everything without effort. There is a kind of peace in this that does not need explanation. It is not something that arrives. It is something that remains when everything else becomes quiet enough. And in that quiet, the world feels complete. Not finished, just complete in this moment. Still moving, still existing, still calm.
The night is almost at its deepest point now. Everything feels still in a way that has no effort behind it. It is not silence created. It is silence that has simply arrived after everything else has become quiet enough. The village sleeps without movement, without disturbance, without thought. Only breath remains, soft and even, hidden inside every home. The river continues its journey through the darkness. It does not change its pace. It does not pause. It does not react to the sleeping world around it. It simply flows forward as it always has, as it always will. Above, the stars remain scattered across the sky. They do not feel closer or farther now. They are simply present, quiet points of light that do not ask for attention. The desert lies beyond everything, still and endless. It holds the night in a vast, patient way, as if it has all the time in the world to remain exactly as it is. No sound rises from it. No movement interrupts it.
only the soft passing of wind that no one hears clearly anymore. Inside the village, sleep is deeper now than before, not because anything has changed, but because time itself feels softer at this hour. A man rests without turning. A woman sleeps without thought. A child breathes slowly, safely, quietly. Each life continues in its own still rhythm, wrapped in the same night. There is no separation here between one and another, only the shared quiet of rest. Even the idea of tomorrow feels far away, not gone, just not needed right now. The world does not rush toward it, it simply remains in this moment, a moment that feels like it could last without end. Outside, the river moves on, always moving, always continuing. It carries the land gently through darkness, without resistance. And as it flows, it feels like it holds everything together without trying. The fields, the homes, the desert, the sky, all connected by its steady presence. Slowly, almost without notice, the edge of night begins to soften, not into full morning yet, just a faint suggestion that darkness is not permanent. A thin, almost invisible shift in the air, the kind that cannot be named, only felt in the stillness. But even this change does not disturb the sleep of the village. It simply passes through it, like everything else, soft, quiet, unimportant to the rest that holds everything still. The river continues, the stars remain, the desert waits, and the village sleeps. And in this endless, gentle continuity, there is nothing to fear, nothing to hold, nothing to chase, only the calm presence of a world that has always known how to keep moving without noise and how to rest without end. The night does not end. It only continues, softly, quietly, and everything remains still.